Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and actually generate a study guide prompt in order to decode everything that we have. So now that I have successfully, hopefully I have successfully convinced you why we should be focusing on the scenarios first. Just understand this. So if we go back over to this PDF right here, and we now have scenario questions, right? Here's the thing. We're going to go down here. We're going to have all these different scenarios, and there's sample questions like, okay, so this is basically all the different, now we know all the different ways the customer support resolution agent can break and all the things that can go wrong as a result. We have all these different problems, something that we're going to be training about very intensely in the coming weeks, getting ready for the exam as a group. So reach out to me if you have not already. What I wanted to understand first and foremost was this. I've set together, you could see basically a gigantic prompt here, and I'll go through the entire prompt with you here, and you can actually have it. I know you've asked me to try my best to choose the best answer. However, it's important to know I voice prompted all of this. If you're going to type all this shit out, your fingers are going to be very, very sore and stiff. But I voice prompted all of this with GenSpark. So I know you've asked me to try my best to choose the best answer. However, that's not going to be possible. I'd like your suggestion on whether the alternative approach is going to be much more effective. I wanted, just to show you what ended up prompting, is I needed a few things. First, at the very top, I need to know what is the vocab. If you give me just the question and I don't understand the context, I'm cooked. So first things first is we need to be able to decode the jargon, which is a part of my prompt. So now that I understand now that I've decoded it into plain business, regular, every single day, normal people English, now I'm able to go ahead and try to understand, okay, fundamentally, what is the problem? The business problem is your AI support agent has a mandatory three-step process it's supposed to follow every single time we need to determine whether or not a refund. Okay. And I needed to understand, like, okay, so looking at it, like 12% is catastrophic. If your agent handles 10,000 support agents, that's actually a lot of money. So, like, I needed to understand that the problem is if people that are requesting the AI agent to give refunds are either not getting their refunds or the refunds is going to the wrong person. As a result, it's also not getting the refunds out to the right people. You're going to have it's a very big problem for the business, right? But how do we go out there and remove that human being layer? I included also as part of my prompt two separate analogies. One for sales and recruiting because I understand recruiting and I understand sales, and one as a product manager because the people in the program are product managers. Step three is what each option actually does. In every single option, you will see four choices. And I said, how do we even categorize these four choices? These four options, all of which are going to include the following. One is the actual fix, what's going to get the problem solved. Another one is going to be a prompt-based fix versus very, very, very surface level. One of them is going to be an almost right answer, and one of them is going to be the reasonably sounding wrong tool. All three of them are designed to go ahead and trick you. Step number four, the principle this question is teaching is basically this. Think of each spectrum as blah, 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 blah. This is the exam metadata, and I wanted to see some additional variations and how this question can come up. Why? Because we only have right now 3 questions per scenario. How many scenarios are there? 6. How many of them are they going to pull for the exam? 4. How many questions are there total in the exam, the entire exam? 60. How much time we're going to have? 120 minutes. That means 4 scenarios across 60 questions. That's 15 questions. If I only have 3 sample questions, what other additional variations are there? So if I have additional variations for the existing sample questions, then I can go out there and actually largely like 9 questions plus 3. I think that's kind of like sufficient. You got 3 here. All of them have an extra 3. So that's another 9 plus that plus 3. That's like 12 questions total, right? So now that I have this, you can have it too, and there's the prompt. Now, maybe you need to understand it with a different analogy. Maybe you're coming from a marketing background. Maybe you're coming from an e-commerce background. I have a lot of lawyers taking my program now. Maybe you're coming in from a law background or an accounting background. It's actually, we're seeing more of those people every single week. For some reason, a month ago, after tax season was over, these guys are just popping up like freaking squirrels all over the place, right? You need to be able to put this in an analogy that you can understand it. Also, why this is so helpful, because why? I want you to make the most amount of money possible, right? If you're training, why are these guys winning? So these guys are the Wall Street homies, right? And they're the ones printing $25,000 a day. You're going to get shuffled out, whether you're on the partner network, whether you're doing this off the partner network, you're doing this for yourself. You're going to get shuffled out if you don't understand their use cases. And what we've seen as a business for us consulting other companies is when we're putting it in jargon that they understand, like when we talk to, we did like just this one very small training for this plastic surgery clinic. And it's amazing actually how much volume they're doing in terms of revenue, like any other business. But like when we're putting it, so say for example, you had this use case, right? If they don't understand how to apply this on a day-to-day basis to the problems that are arising for their business every single day, they will not go ahead and use this. So if I gave you this Aura ring here, but you don't know why you should be using this Aura ring, you're not going to use this Aura ring. You know, how many people buy an air fryer? They don't use it. How many people buy a Ninja blender and they don't use it? That's not what we want. We want you to use it, right? So we need use cases, and those use cases need to be real world problems, because otherwise they're going to be like, oh, it's easier for me to do it the way that we've always been doing it because I don't see how this is relevant for my situation, right? That's also something that we don't want, because that's when the owner comes out and they say like, oh, I guess we don't really need this after all, you know, because everybody hears AI and they want to jump on it. So these are the 4 trade-offs that you always have. And at the very bottom here, we have some additional notes. We did this basically for all of the sample questions. And remember from my previous video, I basically said like, this is the order. It actually just makes sense the more I look at it. Customer support agent. Nobody denies that this is the right way to go. This is the right way to start it. Then you have multi-agent research system. That means multiple agents that are doing the same research at the same time that are not communicating with each other. Then all of that correlates to what? Moving all of that information into structured data extraction. Now that you know this, then it makes it easier for you to know the next scenario, which is continuous integration. And then you start learning how to work on the code. And then you, because now you understand code generation, you understand how to improve developer productivity. It made a lot more sense. So you want to go through all of this. If you're part of our program, I mean, we're going to be going through it a little bit more in depth, each one internally. But the next things that you guys can actually go ahead and do is do the scenario prepared exercises and then the domain prepared exercises. Why is that, I think, which we're going to be building out each and every one of these. So far, right now, and it's actually pretty cool because in each and every one of these questions, it follows the same format, right? It follows the exact same format. So like, as you can basically see here, like what are the vocab, so I can know how to go out there and break it down. And I also have the vocabulary list right here. So far, if we take a look at, we're training you, let's just say we're training you guys to be Italian chefs because you don't know, you don't have any concept of what cooking is, right? Italian food is, because you don't have it there. I was going to think about one example, but I'd rather go out there and keep it to myself for political reasons. But if we were to go, actually, no, I could actually give out another example of this. Is like, they actually recently had this Korean drama where this like modern day chef, Michelin star chef, she went back in time to cook for the King of Korea. Like, if you were to go ahead and teach people all of this, let's go back to narrowing it down to making this a little bit more, I would say, like manageable for us. We have the scenarios. Think of scenarios as what? The actual dish. In this case, we have the spaghetti, we have the lasagna, we've got pizza. Let's just say we want to throw in a sandwich in there. And then we have the domains. Domains, just think of it like the sauce. Domain, you can think about it as the cheese. Domain, you can think about it as the meat. Domain, you can think about it as the bread. You know, you could have like slides of sliced bread on the side on the table while you're eating your Italian dinner, but at the very same time, you can also go ahead and make it a sandwich. Let's talk about somebody that has no freaking concept of this like myself when it comes down to technical concepts. And then you have the scenarios. Up until right now, this has largely been very, you're not getting your hands dirty. The actual preparation exercise, which is the next section we're going to go through very in depth, is actually now, instead of me saying like, okay, what should you do with the lasagna before with the pan before you go ahead and pop it in there? Up until right now, we're just taking a freaking test. You should put olive oil on there and make sure it's all spread out before you start laying out the pasta, and then you start making your layers, right? Unless you guys do it a different way. But up until now, we actually haven't touched the pan. We have never heated up the oven. This has been largely an exam-based exercise, right? The scenario preparation exercises is like, okay, now let's build that multi-tool agent. Now let's go ahead and do this. Once you do this, then after all of this, it's going to make a lot more sense because now you've actually had the physical muscle memory. So it makes more sense for you to do it. But if you don't even have the context, it's not possible for you to get on that. So in the next section, I'm going to show you that we should be doing basically about a few more things before we go ahead and wrap it up. But you should actually, at this point right now, before you even get to this part, you should actually start building up, taking your first round of practice exams, which is the next lesson.